bills were stupid expensive, so I was really excited to head home and get my next letter. But when I opened it, there was no money inside. The note read, "Never do that again. If they find us, we're in trouble." I knew that instant that I was never going to try and see who the man was again. By the time I entered high school, I wanted to date, so I asked one of my classmates out, and he took one long look at me and said, "No, you're ugly." I was really struggling. With a massive scar on my face, no one really wanted to date me. On my way home from school most days, I would cry. But then I realized the power that I had. My mysterious letter sender had started putting $5,000 in every week. I started buying things for my classmates. The most popular girl got a new iPhone from me. Some other kids got skateboards, Gucci clothes, and even sneakers worth hundreds of dollars. Suddenly, everybody wanted to be my friend. Even Leo, the hottest boy in school. I had been crushing on him since I was 6, and he was finally giving me the time of day. I bought him watches, hats, golf clubs. I took us out to dinner every single night, and we dined like kings. I was living the dream. Soon, our entire friend group was decked out in nice clothes, and people around the school started asking me for money and things. I wanted people to like me, so I just gave people what they wanted. But that didn't go over too well. One day, during lunch, I got called into the principal's office, in front of everyone. When I got inside, the principal started asking me where I was getting all this money. Even worse, he said, "Your grades aren't good enough to make this kind of money at a job." I couldn't believe he would say something so terrible. I didn't need this. I stood up and told him it was none of his business and he could shove it, which went about as well as you'd expect. I got suspended for talking back to him, which wouldn't be a big deal, except he was going to call my mom that afternoon. I've never run faster in my life. I burst into our house to find my mom asleep on the couch. I took the phone from her purse and blocked the school's number, but while I was holding it, she got a text. It read, "Ed, you owe me $2,500 or we're going to have a problem." When I scrolled further up to see all the previous messages, I was shocked. Apparently, my mom had been buying illegal goods from some random guy, and he did not seem friendly. So I did what I knew I had to do. I texted him that I'd meet him at a local park and drop off the money. He insisted we do it at night, and I was insanely nervous, but I agreed. I sat in the park in the dark, and a sketchy car drove up. Then a buff guy stepped out and charged over to me. I thought he was going to jump me or something. He stopped and asked why the heck I was there. I handed him the money, my hands shaking, and told him to stop talking to my mom. But he wasn't going down without a fight. He said he was going to talk to whoever he wanted to. Frustrated, I handed him an extra grand, and shocked. He said he'd stay away. Thankfully, those next few days stuck at home with my mom was a nightmare. I pretended I had a cold so I couldn't go to school. Of course, she had guys over. I was disgusted hearing her make out with them, so I snuck out the window. I ended up spending a lot of my time with Leo. He thought it was super cool I got expelled, and honestly, he made me feel like the coolest person ever. We went to the mall and shopped together every day. When he asked me to be his girlfriend, I was so happy. I posted a picture of us together once he asked me to take it down. One day, he showed me a car he really wanted. He said I'd be the greatest girlfriend ever if I bought it for him, and I told him I would. I had thousands and thousands of dollars saved up, so who cared? When I got home that same day, I had a letter, but it wasn't a Sunday, so I was surprised. I was even more surprised when I opened the envelope and it was a huge letter. The letter said that Leo was cheating on me with Rebecca, one of our classmates. My mysterious money sender told me to stop my relationship with him immediately. I felt so grossed out. How long had he been following me? Was he actually watching my every move? For the first time, the reality that some dude had been watching me my whole life started to sink in. But was he right about Leo? I texted Leo to hang out the next day, but he told me he had plans. I immediately went over to Rebecca's house and sat behind a tree, just out of sight. And you know what I saw? Leo and her in the backyard, laying by the pool and making out. My stomach turned. I couldn't believe it. I inched closer to hear what they were talking about, and Rebecca was talking about how ugly I was. Leo laughed and agreed with her, saying he was just in it for the money. I had never been that mad before in my life. Frustrated, I stormed off and decided I needed to get revenge in the best way possible. The next morning, my suspension from school was officially up. When I pulled up to the school first, they didn't seem like they believed me. But as they continued interrogating me, they realized my story hadn't changed. After 8 hours, they let me out with a plan in mind. They'd stake out the house on a Sunday, block the road, and catch the person behind this. When I walked out, my mom was standing there. She knew everything now, and she was not happy. When I told her I'd been paying our bills, she looked a bit ashamed. We didn't talk the entire ride home. When Sunday came, we both sat in the living room with the blinds open, waiting to see it all happen. I felt sick to my stomach. I was giving up someone who had changed my life, someone who had helped me so much over the years. His car pulled up, and all the police lights flashed on. I started to cry, and I bolted out of the house to see him. I needed to apologize for all of this. He tried to drive away from the cops, and a huge chase started. The cops had either side of the road blocked off. He was ramming into cars, desperate to get out. Sparks were flying everywhere. Car alarms were going off. He was even tearing up people's yards. Finally, the cops chased his car into our front yard. They pinned him against the side of the house and yanked him out. I called out to him, apologizing while the cops held me back. Then the cops ripped off his mask, and my world fell apart.
No, I'm so close to the finish line. No! I hate this game. I'm so close. I'm so close. I've lost. Even though I'm like so close. Please, please, please. Don't you dare. That's fourth. I'm gonna be done. Yes!
I recognized the man underneath the mask. It wasn't one of my mom's ex-boyfriends. It wasn't a neighbor. It was my dad. My dad, who had died when I was 2. Now, it was him apologizing. My mom and I stood there in absolute shock while they put him in the cop car. When we found out the real story, I couldn't believe it. After I was born, my mom and dad were fighting a lot. The stress of raising a family was apparently too much for him. So he left for work one day and faked his own death by crashing a boat. He had a float with him to get to shore, and that's when he started a whole new life. He couldn't get a job without an ID, so he started making counterfeit money to get himself by. By the time he realized how unhappy he was and how much he missed us, he thought it was too late to come back. Instead, he watched us from a distance. He knew about my mom's issues, so he gave me the money to take care of us. He'd watched every birthday party, every game, every trip I had ever taken, and now he was going to jail for 20 years. Now all the money I had was gone, and I was poor again. I can lie and say I'm happier now without the money, but I'm not. And I also lost all my friends because everyone thinks my father is a mob boss. But yes.
Yeah, swear to God, I don't see nobody in my lane. This quite go get it like me. Oh, please don't be wasting my time with that business.
One second, babe. I'm trying to trace it.
Oh my!
Everything.
All of your texts? I remember those days.
Dude, I can't spell anything right. There's gotta be
Thank
some way to fix this.
Wait, you used to have this problem too? How'd you fix it?
All I did is download grammar
them long to realize there was something. I think I've loved Jake since we were kids. We were Hi, my name is Kiera, and I've gone through some insane things. When I was younger, my life was like something out of a storybook, and then it became a horror movie. I grew up in a loving home with my mom and dad. For so long, everything seemed great. Both my parents loved.
No! This is like one of the worst. No! Yes, yes, yes. No! Yes, I'm doing it. I might actually, I'm probably not gonna call actually. I might. If I crawl, I swear, but no, actually I'm not gonna crawl, there's no way. If I crawl, I am just gonna be so surprised. And yep, I am not going to crawl. Only a few more people can crawl, like, I don't know, 4 people? Yeah, 4. 4 people can crawl. 3. No, I'm so close. No! I was so close. I was so close.
tried to force me into the man's car. I started screaming, demanding to know what was going on. My mom said we were leaving. She introduced me to the man, John, and told me that we were going to stay at his house for a little while. John put his hand around my mom's shoulder, and I gasped. Mom, cheating on my dad? Is this why she had been so weird this whole time? I tried to get out of the car, but my mom and John blocked me, keeping me trapped in the back seat. I started screaming for help. I didn't want to be a part of my mom's infidelity at all. Then, headlights shone on the house and the car. My dad was home. Apparently, he didn't go on his trip. The look on my mom's face was pure terror. John slammed the car door on me, closing me in, and then my mom and dad fought. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but eventually the cops arrived and dragged my dad away. From that point on, my life was a nightmare. The cops took my dad from the during a fight, but I honestly felt bad for him. Before I knew it, I was living with my mom at John's house. And I did not like John at all. He didn't try to get close to me. He barely even talked to me, but he was all over my mom constantly. He was basically obsessed with her, and it made me super uncomfortable. My mom explained to me that she was sorry, but this was what was best for us. I told her I just wanted to be with Dad, but she just wouldn't listen to me. Every time I tried to call him, my phone wouldn't go through. I didn't understand where he was or why he wasn't answering me. This went on for a couple of months. I spent most of my time with James, my boyfriend, but even he thought the situation
Freshen up behind the mark. The clip.
was sketchy. He told me he had weird feelings about John. John had even warned him to be careful around me or bad things would happen. That sent shivers down my spine. I was just trying to keep my sanity in this insane new world. One night, I woke up to music playing in the front yard. I opened the window to see my dad standing in the grass, blasting music out of his phone and telling my mom and I to come out. I tried to run out to see him, but John stopped me in the hallway. He grabbed me and threw me over his shoulder, pulling me, kicking and screaming back into my room. He held the door so I couldn't get out. My dad walked away after John yelled at him. I didn't understand why, and I was so hurt. Every time I tried to talk to my mom or John about it, they would fight with me. I was fed up. Things with John and my mom got worse and worse. It felt like it was all about them, and I was just a burden. For a business trip, I was honestly relieved. For once, John was decent. He gave me the keys to his car and told me to just relax by the pool all week. Of course, I invited James over to keep me company. We had a great time together. One day, I decided to dip in the pool and relax. James didn't swim, but I think he definitely enjoyed the view anyway. But about halfway through swimming, I started to feel horrible. My vision was blurry, and my stomach was throbbing with pain. When I looked at my hands, they didn't even seem like mine. I tried to stay above water, but I started to completely black out. The last thing I saw was James's panicked face. When I woke up, I couldn't believe my eyes. I heard beeping all around me, and doctors that sounded panicked. I touched my face and realized there were tubes in my mouth, and there was cloth over my eyes. What had happened to me? Had I drowned? Had I had a seizure? It was then that I realized how much pain I was truly in. My insides felt like they were on fire. I tried talking or crying, but I couldn't. I had to just lay there until I finally knocked out again. My life was like that for days. I couldn't see. I could only hear as I drifted in and out of consciousness. At times, I could hear James at my side, reading to me or telling me he loved me. Then it would be my mom and John. Honestly, having John nearby made me wish I would just pass out again. On one day, I actually heard my dad try to enter the room. Him and my mom got into a massive fight. She was screaming at him to get away, and he said that with me injured, I needed both of them to work together to help. My dad was right. There's nothing in that moment that I wanted more than my dad. It took about 2 weeks, but finally, I was starting to feel stable. The doctors unwrapped my eyes and kept a close look on me. My vision was garbage. I could still see, but it was like I was looking at the world through dirty glasses. The doctor sat at my bedside and told me the truth. I had been severely poisoned by someone who put a chemical agent in my pool. The coma I was in and the seizures I had meant I was going to have to learn how to walk all over again. My skin had burns all over it, and it was going to take me years to look normal again. I started to cry. I felt like I was a monster. Then the doctor asked me who would try to poison me. Was there anyone out to get me? Anyone who had while they were out of town. And this whole time, he had wanted my mom, not me. I was convinced it was him. When I confronted them with that, my mom told me I was insane. John had tears in his eyes. He swore he had nothing to do with it, but I saw through him. He hadn't wanted me in his family at all. He had just wanted my mom. So much so that he took her away from my dad. So much so that he was willing to poison me. I was so mad. I told the hospital that they weren't allowed to see me anymore. I told them the only person I would see was my dad. Unfortunately, he didn't visit. I tried calling him, but my number still wouldn't go through. For weeks, it was just James and I. I had to go through painful surgeries. I had tubes in almost every part of my body, and I couldn't even walk myself to the bathroom. The doctors even had to shave my head for one of my surgeries. It was horribly embarrassing. And once I was nearing the end, James stopped showing up. I went to my physical therapy appointments alone, with tears in my eyes. When I texted James, I got no response. When I looked at his social media, I realized I was blocked. Just like that, I was completely and totally alone in the world. Or so I thought. I really lucked out with my physical therapist because he was a hottie. A smoking hot babe of a man. His name was Miles, and when he saw me crying, he wiped my tears. It wasn't long before we were hanging out after physical therapy. My hospital stay was coming to its end, and I realized I had nowhere to go. I was freshly 18. My mom had cheated and run off with a guy who tried to poison me, and my dad was absolutely nowhere to be found.
No, what? That's what you said. Why the hell would you watch that, Dylan?
I slept in the park on a bench. I went around different fast food places desperately trying to find work. I eventually got 2 jobs at 2 different fast food spots so I could make ends meet and afford an apartment, and thank God I did. Some of the things I saw while I was living in the park were not okay. The whole time I was in the park, my mom was desperately looking for me. She kept calling me, but I knew she wouldn't leave John, so there was no point in even bothering with her. Once things calmed down, I tried to talk to the cops about getting John arrested, but they kept telling me there was nothing they could do. They didn't even think it was John, which was totally insane to me. I was heartbroken, but as time went on, Miles was there to help me. He saw me at my worst, and he was there for me through all of it. He moved into my apartment, and for a while, my life was stable. I would get random, creepy calls from my mom and John every once in a while, but the horror of him trying to poison me started to fade into the background. Then I got some incredible news. I was pregnant. After all I went through, I was going to have a baby with a man who loved me, and everything seemed right in the world, except I still felt like I was missing something. I knew I didn't want my mom involved with the baby, but I definitely wanted my dad involved. When I was about 7 months pregnant, I went on a mission to find him. I visited all the old places he used to go. I called all of his old friends. I even went to my old house and asked the owners if they knew where he was, but there was nothing. I started calling all the hospitals trying to reach him, and that's when I really started to worry. Had my dad been hurt? Was he homeless now? Finally, I called the last hospital on the list, and they told me that he had been in their custody for over a year. But it wasn't a normal hospital. It was a psychiatric hospital. Had my dad been so torn up about my mom cheating, he had lost his mind. I drove over to the hospital as fast as I could. When I saw my dad, my heart broke. He was skinny and scared looking. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and he hugged handcuffs and put me in the back of their car for questioning. I was so confused. Being 8 months pregnant at this point, I was terrified something would happen to my baby. When the cops sat me down, they were actually nice to me. They explained that there had been a cluster of poisonings in family pools around town in the past month. Poisonings just like the one that had happened to me. They hadn't happened in years, and suddenly, with my dad's release, they were happening again. I didn't want to believe it. My dad wasn't a murderer. He didn't poison people. Why would he ever want to hurt me? He could never do something so horrible. But about an hour later, the cops pulled my dad in, and they were carrying evidence behind them. My dad had poisoned the pool of a house right by the station, and they caught him red-handed. When they brought him in for questioning, John and my mom showed up. I was so terrified and confused that I hugged my mom. She cried and explained the truth to me. She hadn't cheated on my dad. My dad had been threatening to hurt her and me for years. When she left in the middle of the night with John, it was because it was her only chance to escape. I had been too young to realize how abusive he was to her. The cops finally got the truth out of my dad. He had poisoned the pool, and I, in an attempt to bring our family back together. He thought the tragedy would make us a family again, when in reality it tore us apart even more. When he was released, he started doing it to families' pools, hoping it would make families more united and closer together. The logic made me sick. For the first time ever, I saw my dad for what he was, a sick man. He was sentenced to jail for a long time, then I even testified against him. My mom and John are both in my life. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and although life has been weird, I'm thankful to have my weird little family.
Let's put on a show. Keep up, Dallas.
Dit is dus heel zeg. No, give me back my tail!
Together, but suddenly, someone's arm stuck between them, stopping them from closing. They slid back open, and I saw him. There he was, Justin Bieber, international pop superstar. It was like he had a halo of bright light behind him. It wasn't the first time that I had seen him in my life. As a card-carrying believer, I had been to loads and loads of his concerts, but it was the first time that I had seen him up close. Oh my God, he was beautiful. I had never been close enough to smell him before. He smelled like expensive cologne, of course. He looked like he had just walked out of a magazine photo shoot. His blonde hair and tan skin. I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Hey, he said to me as the elevator doors shut. I almost died. Stop it, Jesse. This is your chance. Don't sound like a weirdo. Just be cool. He said hi. Just say hi back. Hey, Toph. I had said hi a million times in my life, at least. He just wanted to be cool. Regular Jesse. Not obnoxious fangirl Jesse. I opened my mouth to say it, but right then, there was a loud bang, and the elevator stopped moving. The lights flickered on and off for a second before they turned back on. The elevator had just gotten stuck. Holy crap, what were we going to do? I thought I was dreaming, but no, the elevator was really stuck. I looked at Justin.
Soccer ball. Let's play some soccer ball. Play some soccer ball. Oh, oh. Soccer ball. Oh, oh. Soccer ball. Soccer ball. Soccer ball.
Justin turned around and glared at me. His light brown eyes looked like they were on fire. Uh-oh. Did you do this? He demanded. My mouth fell open. Did I do this? Do what? Make the elevator stop? How would I even manage to do that? Yeah, for the first time in my life, I was stuck in a over the summer. I got to work at a record label where tons of my favorite celebrities walked through every other day. But the one condition was no fangirling. That was easy, I thought. And it was. Up until now, I hadn't been stuck in the elevator literally 2 feet away from my favorite pop star. No, not even with you, not with anybody. Being stuck in an elevator is one of the worst things that can happen to a person. You're telling me. He gave up and sat down on the ground. Good. It looked like he didn't notice that I was lying through my teeth when I said that I didn't want to be stuck in an elevator with him. He didn't say anything for a few minutes, and neither did I. Wow, stuck in an elevator with Justin Bieber. And the best I could get was an awkward silence. So, what's your name? He asked me finally. Jesse. Nice to meet you, Jesse. I'm Justin. I'm Justin? He was Justin Bieber. He didn't have to introduce himself. He was an international superstar. Everybody knew who he was. No, stop. Don't do that while you're in here with him. I thought, he's probably used to crazy fangirls mobbing him all the time and just wants to be normal once in a while. It finally dawned on me. This was serious. I was in a position that thousands, no, millions of believers around the world wish that they could be in. I was stuck in a small space with Justin, and I could tell him anything that I wanted. I cleared my throat and composed myself. Hello, Justin. So nice to meet you. He started asking me a couple more questions, like how old I was and where I went to school. He wasn't in school anymore, of course. After high school, which he graduated with a 4.0 GPA, by the way, he didn't end up going to college. I mean, why would he? He already had a job. He had had a job since he was 13. And now he was the Justin Bieber. He had probably made enough money from his music to never have to work again. I told him how old I was. 18, almost 19, and that my family lived in Calabasas. My parents had always been in high-powered jobs, so I had always been around important people. I had met a ton of celebrities when I was just a kid. I had pictures and everything. That's really cool. So what are you doing here? He asked. I was going to tell him that my mother worked at the record label, but I stopped. Didn't that sound weird? Didn't it sound like I was just here at the record label because my mother worked here? I didn't want him to think that I used my mom's job to get stuff that normal people couldn't get. I looked for internships in Hollywood, and I was lucky enough to find this one. Really? He didn't look convinced. Yeah, I've always wanted to be a singer, so I thought working at a record label would be a good experience to see what happens in the business. Oh, you want to be a singer? He asked. He quirked one of his eyebrows and flashed me the sweetest smile. I melted right on the spot. I couldn't believe that I was standing there lying to Justin Bieber, but it sounded like he liked what I was telling him. The truth was so boring. What was wrong with telling him this version? Yeah, it's dumb. I don't even know if I could do it, but I have always wanted to be a singer. Don't say that. I'm sure you're super talented. Thanks, but I don't think you can even say that. You've never even heard me sing. Do it then. What? Sing something for me. If Justin Bieber told you to jump, the only acceptable reply was how high. There was one little problem though. I couldn't sing to save my life. The truth was that I was tone deaf. I really liked music and singing, but I couldn't carry a tune in a backpack if I tried. When I was a kid, I used to think that I was a great singer, one of the greatest singers. I thought that if I wanted to, I could have a real singing career. I mean, my mother worked at a record label. It was like destiny. It was meant to be. But this was Justin Bieber. What was I supposed to do? Tell him no? So I did it. I sang the first verse of his latest single. I had to close my eyes because I was so embarrassed. When I was done, he was smiling. Look, I'm here to have a meeting with my producer. How about this? Once we get out of here, if we can get out of here alive, you can sing for my producer and maybe we can see what happens. Excuse me? Was that Justin Bieber truly asking me to spend more time with him after we got out of this elevator? It absolutely was. Wait, does that mean I was a better singer than I thought I was? How unlucky was that? I get a chance to meet Justin Bieber and he offers me the chance of a lifetime to meet someone who could actually give me a music career, but I can't even sing. The elevator lurched again and there was another bang. After the lights flickered a couple of times, the elevator doors slid back open. Justin jumped to his feet. We are free! We're free! He said, quick, before the doors close again. Just then, Justin grabbed my hand and yanked me out of the elevator with him. I was never washing that hand again. Are you okay? Justin asked me. Was I okay? I had just spent the most perfect 15 minutes of my life alone in an elevator with Justin Bieber. I was more than okay. If I died tomorrow, I wouldn't have a single problem with it. I'm fine. What about you? I asked him. Justin! Justin! Just then, we heard someone shouting from down the hallway. One who was security came up to us. Justin, your producer has been looking all over for you. What happened? Where were you? Guys, relax. The elevator just got stuck for a while, but everything is cool. I made a new friend. This is... Justin, you don't have time for this. You're late for a meeting. The men started dragging Justin away. Well, that was that. My brief encounter with Justin Bieber that I would remember for the rest of my life. I sighed. Guys, wait. This is Jessie. I want her to come to the meeting with me. I want her to meet my producer. The guys looked really annoyed with him, but they didn't argue. Just like that, I was in. My life flashed before my eyes. I was going to meet a producer because Justin thought I could sing. All I could remember was the other kids at the talent show laughing at me. I had to stop this. Justin, you know, I really have to get back to work. I was actually on my way. I was going to say that I was on my way to do a coffee run for everyone at the office I was working in, but then Justin grabbed my hand and I couldn't think straight anymore. Justin wanted to take me somewhere. Who was I to complain? I followed him to the office where we met his producer. A man was sitting at the end of a long table. He stood up, looking really upset when Justin and I showed up. Justin, where the hell were you? Money doesn't grow on trees, kid. Time is money. I know. Look, it isn't our fault. The elevator got stuck, but I have some good news. Jesse's actually a singer. The guys looked at me like I was something on the bottom of his shoe. A singer? Well, I'll be the judge of that. Why is she here? This is a private meeting. You can't bring your little girlfriends to these, Justin. Girlfriend? I almost had a heart attack. Justin just recently got out of a relationship, and I knew that he wasn't dating at the moment. Obviously, I wasn't his girlfriend, but it made me feel good that his producer thought I was Justin's type. Look, how about this? Jessie sings for you, you see how good she is, and she gets to stay for the meeting, Justin suggested. I was so dazed that I didn't realize what he just said. When I snapped out of it, I looked at the producer. He had a wicked grin on his face. Okay, let's just see how good you are, Jessie. Sing something for me. I stood there with my mouth hanging open, looking at Justin and his producer, both waiting for me to blow them away with my amazing vocal skills. Well done, Jessie. You really dug yourself into a hole this time. I should have said something earlier about not knowing how to sing. The producer was smirking while Justin was smiling at me. Well, come on, blow us away, the producer said menacingly. I wanted to cry, but if I ran out of there covering my face, maybe Justin would forget that I have ever existed. But I didn't want to make him mad. I didn't want to embarrass him when he had given me the opportunity of a lifetime. So I closed my eyes. Whatever happened now, happened. I took a deep breath and I started singing. I chose one of Justin's songs because I knew them all by heart. I was so bad, you guys. I could practically hear windows shattering and babies crying when I sang. It was that off-key. I kept going for the whole song, and neither Justin nor his producer stopped me. When I was done, both of them were speechless. Justin spoke first. Justin said, "Wow, I really think she could be the next best thing. She's young and she has a good image. I think people will really like her." The producer scratched the back of his head. "Justin, are you sure?" "Absolutely. In fact, I want her on my next song as the featured artist." The producer paused, then nodded. "Okay, we can make that happen. We'll call you." They took my contact and Justin escorted me out of the room. I was in a daze. Had that really happened? Now everyone who said I couldn't sing in the past would have to eat their words. Are you serious about what you said? Me being...
What are you guys playing?
On your next track? I asked Justin. What? No, of course not. Are you kidding me? You can't sing to save your life. I stopped. What? Seriously. I just did it because my producer takes too much money from his cut of my profits. If he actually released music from someone who sounded like you, he'd be a laughing stock. He laughed and walked away. But before he left, he said, "You're cute. How about a date?" My heart broke. All these years of being a fan. I thought I knew Justin, but I didn't. He had tricked me. I looked deep inside his eyes and said, "Oh, I would love that." And we scheduled a date. On the day of the date, he called me 30 times, but I never picked up. I think he will never forget my name, just like I will never forget his.
was a Wednesday morning when I received the letter. As I was taking a sip of my coffee,
Wait, I forgot I'm streaming.
it had been over 10 years since I received any communication from my parents. I was all grown up
And I've been watching YouTube this whole time. I might actually get copyright claim.
here and opened the letter. My heart stopped. The twisted pair was being released from prison next week and let back out into society. I began thinking about the day I decided to run away from home. I had drafted the perfect plan in my diary.
Hyperscope.
It took me about a year to perfect every angle. It was risky, but I was finally ready. On Sunday evening, when I knew my parents were asleep and the maids would be gossiping down in the kitchen, I grabbed my duffel bag out of the cupboard. I had everything I needed for my journey into the outside world. In my head, I had imagined escaping to be so difficult, but it was a piece of cake. I simply walked down the spiral staircase and out of the door into my oh-so-perfect suburban town. It must have looked strange, such a young girl walking around by herself, but everyone in this town is so self-obsessed. I'm not surprised they didn't notice me. The only thing they turned their head for was money. The longer I walked, the smaller the houses got until I was no longer surrounded by the mansions, and it didn't smell like freshly trimmed gardens. It was late night by this time, and the houses were gray and dreary. I was scared, but exhilarated. I clutched at the envelope in my hand that was going to allow me to start my new life as an ordinary person. You see, a few days after my birthday last year, I had overheard Mother and Father talking. What they had thought was a discreet conversation actually informed me that they are not my real parents. This is how my great escape started to form. After doing a lot of snooping around and investigating when my parents were out playing golf or drinking champagne, I was able to get my real parents' details. The night I found out, I felt so relieved. I had always known that I was an outsider in my picturesque life. I craved a reality that included TV dinners, baseball games after school, and a cozy family home where you didn't have to use the intercom to ask for a glass of water. I never felt a connection to my parents. We spent hardly any time together, and I was basically raised by several underpaid maids. Anyway, after what felt like hours of walking, several buses, and more than a few strange looks, I had finally arrived at the address scrawled on a piece of paper in the envelope. I was ready to meet my real parents. As I knocked on the door, I immediately felt uneasy as I heard several dogs rapidly barking in the back garden. There were all kinds of noises and smells coming from the house that were new to me, and they set me on edge. Finally, after a lot of huffing and puffing whilst turning several locks on the door, a very annoyed-looking lady with unkempt hair opened the door. "What do you want?" she asked. I was lost for words, but finally managed to mutter my name and whisper, "I think you are my real mom." Her expression softened for just a second before she barked at me, "I don't have any children," and went to slam the door. I was unsure what to do. I was just about to turn and leave when a messy-looking man opened the door. He told me that I had better come in, and led me through a gray hallway into a messy living room. On one of the tattered sofas sat the lady, with her head in her hands. As I was led to be seated, the man asked several questions in order to check my identity. When he was sure of who I was, he asked why I was there. I explained my feelings of always being an outsider, and how I had always known that I didn't belong with Mother and Father. "I want to live a normal person's life with you, my real family," I moaned. The lady shook her head and looked at the man who was supposedly my birth father. They asked to be excused for a minute and went off into another room to talk. Upon re-entering the room, they told me that they had come to a decision that I could stay. If I really wanted to experience how normal people live, they would give me 3 days with them and see how I felt by the end of it. I was ecstatic. They, however, looked doubtful. It was really late and they told me it was time for bed. I agreed and gathered my things, ready to go upstairs and see my new cozy bedroom. However, they asked me to stand up and started to place a sheet on the tattered 2-person sofa behind me. Turns out that when you live a normal lifestyle, you don't have endless amounts of rooms for guests to pick and choose from. Still,
Huh? This is not... Oh. I'm not playing. Watermelon sugar high. Watermelon sugar high. I'm on drugs. I qualified. I'm qualified. No, I died. I hate this game. He's a qualified. Yes. I'm not crying. I qualified. I was laughing. I qualified. I qualified. I'm laughing. No, I'm laughing and I'm laughing and crying at the same time. Hey, I might win. Oh yes, this is the finals, and I've actually done this one before. This one's easy. It's gonna run around. Yeah, but it's fun. Boom! Run, better run. No! Your mom's asshole. Shoot! I was in the finals! I hate this. It's so hard. Watch the stream then, you dumb. And of course my phone dies. What the actual fuck? What's the time? What's for dinner? And go fuck yourself. Fuck you too. Oh my, I think I actually broke my phone. I think I actually threw it out the window. My god, I threw my... I'll be back. Yeah, I broke my phone. Yeah, I broke the broken phone. Actually, you can't break a broken phone. Actually, no, you can. You can break it more. You wanna know who the smartest person on Earth is? No, me, dumbass. Get it right. No, okay, you can be the billionth smartest. Yep, the billionth. Yeah, sure about that? Filippo. What? You said under year 6, you dumbass. Yeah, Filippo is under year 6, cunt. Yep. Wait, what year are you, Leon? Yeah, 2? Oh, I knew that. You know, Louisa made me cry once. Louisa punched me in the stomach and I started crying. No, it was a long time ago. I think it was like 3 years ago. I lost my tail. I don't have a tail. I don't have a tail. Bye bye, bitch. Fuck off. You're touching me. You're not touching me. Go away. You're not touching me. No, this guy is trying to touch my tail. Yes, my tail. Yeah, like, go away. Fuck this shit, I'm out there. He just yoinked my tail. He legit... Team is losing because of my tail loss. I lost my tail to a fucking nigger. Huh? Yeah. I think it was Monday. Fuck you. No, Leon, what are you talking about? Slime climb. Did you seriously suck off Clippy? Oh my god. You're hilarious, did you know that? I'm sick of like you're a fucking faggot. About you. Nah. I'm going to get wiped. Dylan, I'm got raped by Corona. You raised me, Ryan, raise me! You damn kid. I will be back some... Well, no, stepdad, I mean. Oh wait, what is Leon? What step is he? Step gay kid. No. Yeah. Yup. This pizza is so good. I've had so much pizza there today. Wait, Ryan, are you downloading Avix? Okay. I'll be back. Oh, this pizza's so good. Oh. Oh my god, pizza. Why are you singing Cancer by Cancer, Cancer, James, Cancer? Stop singing Cancer by James Has Cancer. You. What the fuck? I'm gonna go into hyperscape.